Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Shenington Kart Racing Club here in Oxfordshire for the next round. It's round 7 and 8 of the 2019 Motorsport UK British Kart Championships for Honda TKM Extreme and Junior TKM, and the penultimate two rounds of the season for KZ2. That's rounds 5 and 6. After a 5-day heatwave, we've had the heavens open here in Oxfordshire, and we are about to get underway here live for timed qualifying. So over the duration of the next hour or so, the drivers will do their level best. They've had a lot of practice this morning here, as we will find out who will be our pole sitters for the respective classes. There will be two groups of qualification for Honda Junior TKM and TKM Extreme, with KZ2 having their own qualifying session, with the first heats getting underway at around about 15:45 local time. We're broadcasting live on the PA at the circuit here at Shenington, as well as on Downforce Radio, live and uninterrupted throughout the weekend. So we're just having our last free practice session, which is KZ2, currently being led by Scott Allen in the number 25 from Jade Racing on a 52.69. Adam Glear is currently running in second position ahead of James Glenister, Shane Daly, Miles Murphy rounding out the top 5, Matt Sherwin, Hannah Lang, Lee Hasler, Adam Rustling and Lee Ward rounding out the top 10, who were separated by over 1.2 seconds. I've seen a lot of, I would say tricky conditions are definitely an understatement. There's a lot of standing water coming out of Cafe Corner before they blast all their way down to the Stratford Straight, heading towards the Stratford Hairpin. There's two different variations of the circuit that are being used this weekend. The direct drive circuit for Honda Junior TKM and TKM Extreme will be using the 1,018 metre circuit, whereas with the gearbox circuit, which is implicated for KZ2, it's 1,211 metres. So once the session has been concluded, now there is a kart that I've just seen stricken just off the Bruno chicane. So it's about 20 seconds left of this final free practice session of the day before we get into the business of time qualifying. So it has been declared a wet race meeting. Current air temperature around 16 degrees Celsius, a bit of a very much a huge climactic shift as to the 30-something degrees that the majority of the United Kingdom was privy to over the last 5 days. And the checkered flag is out. Adam Glear goes second in the final KZ2 free practice session. Shane Daly fourth, Matt Sherwin sixth. As below the commentary position, just off Cafe Corner, I can hear the KZ2s revving their engines as they come into the Parc Fermé and scrutineering. All results will be provisional, pending any technical and sporting matters post-session. And it was the number 47, that's Ryan Dones from Rush Performance, that is having to push his kart back. So first up, we will have Group 1 for Honda Cadet. And currently leading the standings is Japan's Keen Nakamura Berta, who is 3 points ahead coming into this round, ahead of Mitchell Gibbons, who last weekend picked up the English plate and also the SP, the Shenington Super Prix plate last weekend. And we've got the likes of Jack Hobson, Connor Duncan, Oscar Tewton, clearly in the championship mix. I know that Ethan Simmons will want to get back after what was a difficult weekend for the cutting-edge racing driver, who's also part of the Young Racing Driver Academy, which also has Jem Hepworth in their stables, amongst others, within the karting fraternity. So 66 points separate first to 10th, and that's from Nakamura Berta, Gibbons, Jack Hobson, Connor Duncan, Oscar Tewton, Ewan Sharman, Sonny Smith, Jaden Gregg, who took a win in the second final back at Fullbeck a few weeks ago, Stephen Duncan and Ethan Simmons. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next 6 minutes. So the green flag is signalled to the dummy grid. The Honda Cadets are released for the first of two group qualifying sessions. As Keen Nakamura Berta, I think, just waits for everyone to get past. Everyone's going to be jockeying for position. So 5 minutes and 47 seconds on the clock. We have Keen Nakamura Berta, Sonny Smith, Lewis Island, newly moved teams to SFR Motorsport. Had a chat with him and his dad earlier on today. They seemed in very good spirits. They're looking forward to some good racing here at Shenington. So very soon, in about the next 30 or so seconds, we'll probably find out what the times will be. The cadets have been running in around about the, I think Mitchell Gibbons was one of the quickest out there, ran about a 52.2 this morning. And it is about how they use the wet tyres in these conditions, whether teams and drivers have decided to scrub in a set of wets over multiple practice sessions to get that little bit more adhesion and a bit more purchase on the asphalt here. As the number 77, that's Oscar Tewton from Project 1 East Anglia, just comes out of the grid. So this is where their first timed laps will be counted. 4 minutes and 54 on the clock. And there is some standing water on the inside of the exit of Cafe Corner, so drivers trying to negotiate their way past that. Seen a lot of spray kicked up by the rear tyres on the karts, and I've seen the KZ2s actually going sideways through Cafe Corner a little bit earlier on during free practice this morning. So they're heading down the Hangar Straight into Hangar Corner, and then they'll head into the corner known as Wilkins before heading back onto the main straightaway, Park Straight, before going to Park Bend. So nearly 2 minutes of the session completed. We're about to get the first banker laps in. Fastest in sector number 1 is Lewis Island. And then it is also, well, the times have changed at the moment. Sonny Smith is at the top of the tree, 55.52 from the Synergy Race Team driver. Freddie Hull up into 6th position behind Bradley Beck. Zach Drummond from Scotland in the 35 is 4th on a 55.97. Keen Nakamura Berta, 57.56 from the Japanese driver from Project 1 Racing, currently 15th. So quite a few changes, I would imagine, over the next 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So in terms of the ideal lap time, according to our timing, is 55.32. Sonny Smith is just 0.2 off of that at the moment. And Keen Nakamura Berta has gone purple in the second sector of 19.13. That's slightly quicker than Bradley Bick, who's currently 5th in the number 32. So as the drivers are making their way through Wilkins, they're now going to start completing more timed laps. Oscar Tewton jumps up into what was 7th, drops into 9th. Or maybe even make that 10th as Henry Jocelyn from Ambition Motorsport in the 62 goes up into 1st. Nakamura Berta now making some headway. The Japanese driver now up into 3rd behind Sonny Smith. Lewis Island showing very strongly here is the youngster in the number 12. In 4th ahead of Jack Hobson, Zach Drummond, Bradley Bick, Sonny Mortensen, Freddie Hull in 9th and Oscar Tewton running at the top 10. The entire field, all 20 of them out there. And this is from Henry Jocelyn to Cruz Speakman, separated by just over 1.65 seconds at this particular moment. We've gone past the halfway marker in terms of time in this qualifying session. 2.5 minutes to go. They'll be coming around very shortly through Wilkins as the field floods its way through. So they'll still be using as much momentum, and that will be through the toe of those in front. Now, the driver coming through Cafe Corner ahead of everybody at the moment is the number 32. And that's Bradley Bick, currently 7th. Ralph Jungling from Germany with Heinz Racing jumps up into 9th behind Michael Morgan in the 54. So Henry Jocelyn sets a 55.37. Sonny Smith, Keen Nakamura, Berta, Lewis Island, Jack Hobson. That is the top 5 at the moment. So there has been a warning flag issued to the number 35 of Zach Drummond. And that was 3 minutes into the start, well, from the start of the session. So Sonny Smith sets a personal best in Sector 2. Michael Morgan does the same in Sector 1, as does Fedi Al-Rifai from Heinz Racing. Currently in 19th position. Top 19 separated by just over 1.2 as they now head down the Hangar Straight through Hangar Corner. And they are now starting to flood their way through. Oscar Tewton now jumps up into 4th position. Stephen Duncan from Scotland from Project 1 Racing in the 16 up to 11th. Fedi Al-Rifai up into 18th. Callum Ghosh from Cutting Edge drops down to 19th. Cruz Speakman still languishing down at the bottom of the order is the 44. with a 56.99. It's getting a bit closer at the top. The top four separated by 0.18 of a second. That's Jocelyn, Sonny Smith, Keen Nakamura Berta, and Oscar Chewton. Those are your top four. Lewis Islin a little bit further behind by about a tenth of a second. Jocelyn sets the best in Sector 1. Chewton does the same in Sector 2, as does Jack Hobson, as does Ralph Jungling, and quite a few other drivers, including Jai Lawrence and Callie Clifford. So by the time they cross the start-finish line, which some have done already, Lewis Islin jumps up into second position. Ralph Jungling goes into ninth. Sonny Mortensen, Callie Clifford, Jai Lawrence, they are 11th to 13th respectively. So things have changed, and Henry Jocelyn is going slightly quicker by 0.02 of a second, a 55.35, and he's gone purple in Sector 1 as the Ambition Motorsport driver. So he's trying to set the initial pace, but the checkered flag is out. This is the last attempt these drivers will have, as some are jockeying for position going into the Bruno chicane. So Jocelyn, again, is on an absolute flyer at the moment. 17.88 Sector 1, 19.05 Sector 2 for the 62 from Ambition Motorsport. Checkered flag is out. That concludes the session. Chewton jumps up into second position at the flag, but Henry Jocelyn puts in an absolutely brilliant lap there. Doesn't make it in terms of setting 3 successive purple sectors, but does an 18.14. So the English driver from Ambition Motorsport is provisionally at the moment the pace setter in qualifying, with the second session for Honda Cadets set to get underway momentarily. All results are provisional, pending any scrutineering or sporting matters post-session. Henry Jocelyn takes pole in Group 1 for time qualification for Honda Cadets, ahead of Oscar Chewton by 0.35 of a second. I don't know where Jocelyn found all that time, but that was a mammoth lap there from the 62. Sonny Smith is in third, ahead of Lewis Islin. Championship leader Keen Nakamura Berta is in fifth, ahead of Jack Hobson. Bradley Bick, Michael Morgan, Zach Drummond, Ralph Jungling from Germany rounds out the top 10. They were separated by just under a second. Sonny Mortensen was 11th, ahead of Callie Clifford, Stephen Duncan, Jai Lawrence, Freddie Hull, Miles Turnbull, Gustav Zusakovs, Cruz Speakman, Fede Al-Rifai, and Callum Ghosh. The entire field separated by 1.43 seconds. So Jocelyn's time, provisionally speaking, is the one to beat. And there are plenty of other competitors waiting in the wings. Let's not count out the newly crowned Super Prix, Shenington Super Prix champion and English Plate champion, Mitchell Gibbons from Ambition Motorsport. Then we have also got Heinz Races O-Plate champion, Connor Duncan. But there's going to be quite a few others that I think might be in the mix here. We'll find out when they get released from the dummy grid ahead of their 6-minute qualifying session. So we are just literally moments away, around about 20 or so seconds before the second group of Honda Cadets out for qualifying will be released. Now there's been a little change since fullback. There's been a change through Roland Eschberg, who placed third in the second final. What was a fantastic race behind Jaden Gregg and obviously Mitchell Gibbons. He has now switched and has become Mitchell Gibbons' teammate at Ambition Motorsport. That's a very interesting development indeed, but we've got quite a few other drivers that could be there or thereabouts. Green light is given. The timer starts to tick away. The grid has been released for the second and final timed qualification session for the Honda Cadets. here today. So 55.07 is the time to beat, and that belongs to Jocelyn. And we'll find out how he fares in terms of what the rest of the opposition will do over the next 5 minutes and 24 seconds. There is one person I think we might want to watch out for, and that is, I think, by my reckoning, Danny Shields. So the number 29 could be one driver that we do need to watch in this qualifying session. So Connor Duncan's gone purple in sector number 1 with an 18.34. But then Mitchell Gibbons has gone fastest of anybody in the first sector, 17.99. And Mitchell Gibbons is running with the E plate this weekend. And I spoke with the team boss, Paul James, earlier on, and he said the minute we got that, we were straight on getting that on ready for this weekend. I don't blame them at all. It is something that's quite a privilege to have, and to see an E plate and an O plate champion in the same qualifying session as well as in the same field is definitely going to be a treat that we're going to see earlier on. So Gibbons sets the initial pace out of a 55.33. And Eschberg currently second, 0.22 off of his new teammate. Ethan Simmons looking to fire back after fullback. The Cutting Edge Racing driver is 0.37 off of Gibbons at the moment. Josh Rudd, Danny Shields, Alfie Thompson, Jacob Gilman, Ewan Charman, Thomas Cucurulo Yeomans and Connor Duncan. That is the top 10. They are separated by just over half a second. 3 minutes and 30 on the clock to go in this last qualifying session. So effectively, Gibbons' time at the moment, he's gone purple in 1, purple in 2. Could it be 3 in a row? Third time's the charm. Not quite, but he's getting closer. He's 0.11 of a second off of Jocelyn's time in the group qualification stages. Nakamura Berta, as a result of what's happening at the moment, is dropping down the order and is 9th currently. Ben Rayburn from Project 1 East Anglia up into 4th. Cucurulo Yeomans up into 3rd ahead of Josh Rudd. Ewan Charman, Ethan Simmons in 7th ahead of Connor Duncan, who's now up into 8th position. Danny Shields in 9th. Alfie Thompson rounds out the top 10. Still pretty close because the top 11 is split by just under 6 tenths. And in 11th position, it's Jacob Gilman from Ambition Motorsport, currently running in the 48. So Ewan Charman's just gone purple in sector number 2, and that is a 18.94. This puts an ideal lap at around about 54.96 seconds, according to our dedicated live timing, as Cucurulo Yeomans jumps up into second behind, in front of Eschberg. Rayburn, Charman, Rudd, Simmons, Connor Duncan, Danny Shields, Alfie Thompson, Jacob Gilman, Anastasia Dane, Wesley Swain, Aidan Mitchell, Josh Agenbar, Timo Jungling, Jaden Gregg, who won the second final at fullback, all the way down in 17th position, and is only 9 tenths of a second off the pace. Has set exactly the same time as Timo Jungling, but Jungling set the lap time first, which puts him in 16th position. Rounding out the order, it's Reg Hayward, Jensen Graham, and Kasper Tomilewski. Top 19 separated by just under 1.1 seconds as the majority of the field is making their way through to Hangar Corner, which will then lead them into Wilkins. It's the first barrage of Honda Cadets in this session. We're getting to the last 90 seconds of this. So they've probably got, with the pace that they're setting at the moment, they'll probably have this. They'll probably have 2 laps left to put their best marker down. Let's see if Gibbons has had a response. No, he did a 55.5 that time around. But if things continue to increase with the pace that these the second group of Honda Cadets are showing at the moment, we could find that Keen Nakamura Berta could end up outside of the top 10 after timed qualifying on aggregate. So Jocelyn is leading the classification in qualifying. Gibbons second, Cucurulo Yeomans, Shields, Tewton, Eschberg, Smith, that's Sonny Smith, Rayburn, that's Ben Rayburn, Lewis Islin, and then Keen Nakamura-Berta. That's 0.47 of a second separating the top 10 on aggregate as we go into the last 40 seconds. So Gibbons has set a personal best in sector number 2 and matches his best time of the session so far on lap number 5. Could he have the momentum carrying in his favour? As I tell you what, it was a bit close between Cucurullo Yeomans and Connor Duncan going through into Pitts Bend onto the Stratford Straight. So Duncan was on the inside line and Cucurullo Yeomans was very close to touching wheels there. But at the moment, it is still Gibbons. He needs to hook this lap up. I don't think it's going to be enough. The checkered flag is out. But it's still going to be a very, very good advantage for Mitchell Gibbons going into the heat stages before the 2 finals tomorrow afternoon. And Gibbons has gone purple in sector number 2. I think he might have heard me just then, but we'll find out what the E-Plate champion does very, very shortly. No, not enough, but the checkered flag waves. Drivers coming across the start-finish line and taking second position in qualifying after the initial classification. These results are provisional, pending, and scrutineering and Sporting Matters post-session. Mitchell Gibbons goes pole in time qualification session number 2, but then is second behind Jocelyn. That was very close indeed. So Henry Jocelyn, Mitchell Gibbons, Ewan Charman make it an Ambition Motorsport 1, 2, 3, provisionally speaking, at this moment in time. Nice work by Thomas Cucurullo Yeomans in third position. He takes fourth in the overall classification. Was a 10th behind Ewan Charman. So the V Motorsport driver is fourth. Connor Duncan, the O-Plate champion, is fourth in this session, but takes fifth in the aggregate qualification. Danny Shields, what a showing from him. First time in the wet, I believe. The Ambition Motorsport number 29 takes fifth in qualifying in this session and takes sixth ahead of Oscar Tewton. Roland Eschberg, newly signed with Ambition Motorsport, sixth, takes eighth in the overall classification of qualifying. Ben Rayburn in seventh, Aidan Mitchell in eighth, ahead of Josh Rudd. Ethan Simmons in 10th position. Jacob Gilman, Anastasia Dane, Alfie Thompson, Jaden Gregg, Timo Jungling, Josh Agenbar, Wesley Swain, Reg Hayward, Jensen Graham and Kasper Tomilewski round out the 20 strong. But breaking news from Shenington, the points leader Keen Nakamura-Berta outside of the top 10 post-qualifying for the Honda Cadet Cup rounds 7 and 8 here at Shenington. So next up will be our another set of 2 qualifying groups. This time it is Junior TKM. Coming into this round, Zach Oates leads the championship by 18 points ahead of Jade Racing's Oliver Stewart. Louis Harvey, third in the second final at Fullbeck, having led for the majority of it, only for Ben Watson to take the win at the end of it, is third, but is only 28 points behind Zach Oates. Harry Yardley-Rose had a bit of a blip, it seemed, in the second final at Fullbeck, but he is still quite clearly in the championship hunt. I remember how he did. He took a first and a second at Rissington, which showed that he was definitely championship material this season. Jack Nicholson rounds out the top 5, and they are all separated by 56 points. You can't not factor out Morgan Kidd from Precision Racing and Clarkson Motorsports, Ben Watson. Spencer Lane, Scott Smith and James Barty round out the top 10, and they are split by 75 points from Zach Oates to James Barty. So 6 minutes reset on the clock for the first of 2 group qualification sessions for Junior TKM. Green flag is shown to the pre-grid and everyone is now released, and there looks to be a little bit of a problem there. That is for the Now, that is the 32. That's Jack Saunders, who has come to a halt there, but has now got going again. So in this, we have the likes of Louis Harvey, Zach Oates, the current points leader, Joe Harrison, Josh Raystrick, Harvey Roth, who I saw was very feisty back at Rissington, but didn't had a penalty, I believe, back at Fullbeck a few weeks ago. Scott Smith, Tom Johnson, Jack Nicholson, Cian Bennett, amongst others. So we'll find out over the course of this, it's now about 5 minutes and 10 seconds left to run in this qualifying session. First one of two. And Zach Oates also rocking the E-plate this weekend. So good to see him sporting that once again. I remember when I commentated on him last year, he also had the E-plate at that particular moment in time. So, fastest in sector number one is Harvey Cole in the 62 from Litchfield Motorsport, a 16.69. That's an impressive first sector in comparison with the remainder of the field, who are running in the low 17s, like Zach Oates has done a 17 flat in sector number one as the field starts making their way through Wilkins. And Harvey Cole, in the meantime, has gone top of the tree at the minute, a 51.45. That's over half a second quicker than Zach Taylor. But Cole is actually using the toe that Zach Oates is giving him at the moment. Oates drops down into third position, but in front of Charlie Webb. Louis Harvey from Classen Motorsport, ahead of Fullbeck Final 2 winner Ben Watson. Jack Nicholson, Scott Smith, Jacob Hodgkiss, and Joe Harrison round out the top 10. Separated by just over 1.1 seconds at this particular minute, but Harvey Cole's put in an absolute blinder early on in this session. 51.45 at the moment. So coming quickly towards the completion of the first half of this session. And at the moment, Louis Harvey's just jumped up into third. He's gone 0.7 of a second slower, but was quicker on that lap. He's dropped to fourth as a result of Charlie Webb jumping past him into third position. Scott Smith has been trounced by Jack Saunders as Jensen Davis from Wales in the Precision Racing number 34 goes third quickest. 51.93. Charlie Webb, Louis Harvey rounds out the top five, all separated by pretty much 0.7 of a second. But Harvey Cole still is keeping it quite consistent. Through sector one, he's done a 16.88, 18.52. Zach Oates has done two personal bests, as has Louis Harvey in the first two sectors. They've both run at a 16.9 respectively and an 18.4 in sectors 1 and 2. They are on personal best. This could see them jump up the order, and it does happen. Oates goes third, then Harvey retaliates and goes to within 3.7 tenths off of Harvey Cole. It's getting a bit tighter at the top now. Top five separated by less than half a second. Ben Watson from Classen Motorsport jumps up into sixth position behind Jensen Davis. So at the moment, Harvey Cole is still doing enough. He's just done a 16.83. He was the one with the fastest sector earlier on, which was a 16.69. And on aggregate, in terms of the... he's actually matched the ideal lap, which is quite surprising here for me. A 51.45 is the ideal lap in the current conditions. And he's just done an 18.38. So he's nigh on 0.2 off of what that would be. We'll make that a little bit more than that. It was 51.8 from Harvey Cole, the 62 at the minute, who has got ahead of Zach Oates in the E-plate. Louis Harvey not that far adrift. None of the drivers in the top 7 have improved, but Cian Bennett in the 44 from the UK has gone up into 8th on a 52.22. So we're coming down to the last 75 seconds of this first of two group qualifying sessions for Junior TKM. These guys will set the pace, and then the remainder that are left to go into qualifying very, very shortly, as Harvey Cole has just done the fastest sector number 2 of anybody in this qualifying session, an 18.28. He's just put in a 51.68. Zach Taylor puts in a 52.1. Louis Harvey and Zach Oates are pretty much even Stevens on time. But in terms of the positioning, Oates is about half a tenth off of Harvey's pace in terms of the best lap he's done in qualifying thus far. We're coming down to the last 30 seconds. So it's Cole from Taylor, Harvey, Oates, Davis, Watson, Webb, Bennett, Smith, Saunders, Nicholson, Roth, Hodgkiss, Harrison, Tibbetts, Raystrick and Johnson. And they are all separated by just under 1.6 seconds. This is probably going to be the final lap here, as I see a couple of karts nearly going sideways as they're applying the power through the Bruno chicane to go onto the Hangar straight. So that's it. Time's expired. Checkered flag is being waved. We're going to find out who's where. Harvey third. Zach Taylor second. Cian Bennett 8th. Jacob Hodgkiss 13th behind Harvey Roth. Joe Harrison 14th. Who's going to be pole in time qualifying Group 1 for Junior TKM? I think that's pretty much said it all. Harvey Cole from Litchfield Motorsport on the 62 takes pole by 0.34 of a second in Junior TKM qualifying Group 1. Zach Taylor in the 99 was second ahead of Louis Harvey. Zach Oates, the current championship leader, in fourth. 0.42 off of Cole's pace. Jensen Davis, Ben Watson, Charlie Webb, Cian Bennett, Scott Smith, Jack Saunders, Jack Nicholson, Harvey Roth, Jacob Hodgkiss, Joe Harrison, Theo Tibbetts, Josh Raystrick and Tom Johnson round out the 17-strong order. So the marker to beat will be the number 62 of Harvey Cole. These results, as I call them, as I will be stating after every single session, are provisional, pending, official ratification, post-scrutineering and post-sporting checks. So very shortly we'll hit the halfway points here at qualifying for the continuation of the 2019 Motorsport UK British Kart Championships. Rounds 7 and 8 for Honda and TKM, and KZ2 it's rounds 5 and 6 here at Shenington Kart Racing Club. And in the quintessential British weather tradition, I've seen shorts with sandals, I've seen brollies, I've seen people braving it without coats. So we like our weather, don't we? In many respects, I'm sort of relieved because it hasn't been easy for a lot of us. With 30 plus degree heat, it can be a bit of a struggle. But I think in some respects, it is. I was sort of hoping for 20 degrees, sunshine and a bit of a breeze, but then it's 16 degrees, wet, and there is still a breeze. But it doesn't faze those competing in the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships. So in around about 50 seconds' time, we'll get underway with our second qualifying group for Junior TKM. Thank you very much for those listening on Downforce Radio, providing live coverage of the time qualifying. We will also be covering the repechage and also the two finals. The repechage will get underway at 12:40 local time here in the United Kingdom, and that will also be those will be broadcasted live on Downforce Radio throughout the weekend. So the remainder of the field are waiting for their opportunity. So Harvey Cole's time is the one to beat, a 51.45. And at the moment, Louis Harvey is third, and Zach Oates is fourth. Let's see how the dynamic changes going into the heat stages a little bit later on this afternoon. As some drivers are deciding to floor it when they come out of the pre-grid, whereas others are sort of looking to just sort of settle themselves. The standing water that was quite prolific coming out of the exit of Cafe Corner has been swept aside over the duration of the qualifying session. So we will find out a little bit later on who is going to do what they can to upset Harvey Cole at the top of the times in terms of junior TKM qualifying here at Shenington. So momentarily we will get our first set of banker laps in here. So we've got the likes of Harry Yardy-Rose, Oliver Stewart, who's second in the championship behind Zach Oates. Let's see what the Scot from Jade Racing has in his pocket. As Will Howells, one of the privateers in the 15, goes quickest of a 16.78 for the first sector. And Oliver Stewart does the best sector of anybody in sector number 2, an 18.43 from the number 17. As we'll get our first glimpse, 4 minutes and 25 seconds on the clock remaining, as the first set of drivers now make their way through into Park Bend, now into the right-hander at Cafe Corner. And at the moment, well, Spencer Lane has gone top at the moment, the number 11 from England, 51.66. That's put him second on aggregate in terms of the group qualifying classification. This means that Zach Taylor, Louis Harvey, Zach Oates and Jensen Davis drop down into 3rd to 6th respectively. Oliver Stewart is sitting in 7th position, but if he can get over 3/10, well, if he can get quicker, 2/10 quicker over the course of this qualifying session, this will put him into 3rd position on aggregate and actually put him ahead of Zach Oates in qualifying. So Stewart goes slightly better then and does a 51.86. That means he's pushed Zach Oates down to, well, it was 6th, it's now 7th, as Will Howells has just jumped up into 4th in the aggregate, but 2nd on the road here. 0.15 off of Spencer Lane's best time. And Spencer Lane has done a 51.66. That is just over 2/10 away from what Harvey Cole did in the first of the group qualification sessions here for Junior TKM. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out. Yardy-Rose at the moment currently sitting in 7th position on a 52.22, setting exactly the same time as Ben Cox in the 82, one of the privateers who's running on the Gillard chassis, based out of Deddington. As Ben Cox now goes up another position into 6th and does a 52.13, 1/100ths off of Dominic Roberts, as James Barty now drops Yardy-Rose another position. So Yardy-Rose from TWM needing to put in a good lap. Spencer Lane in the meantime has set the best second sector out of anybody on a 18.26. Stewart still has got some work to do, but he is still ahead of Zach Oates on aggregate in the overall qualification classification. He's behind Louis Harvey, who's currently running in 5th, but Stewart's only has to maybe even get 3/100ths of a second to put him in front of Louis Harvey from Clarkson Motorsport. So I've just seen the number 17 of Oliver Stewart come through. He hasn't bettered his time. He did a 51.92. Spencer Lane and Will Howells seem to have dropped off a little bit there. Maybe they're trying to save the wet tyres slightly and maybe go for it. And then the last minute of this qualifying session, it's anyone's guess what strategies these drivers are employing. Are they going to go out for it from the very early doors, or are they going to wait until the last moment to put in that lap that can put them further up the order And I tell you what, Will Howells still sitting fourth in terms of the aggregate, second at the moment. Oliver Stewart's just done a personal best in Sector 2, as has Dominic Roberts, and also Harry Wainwright from Lichfield Motorsport in the number 29. He's also done a personal best in Sector number 2. So we've got 45 seconds left in this qualifying session. Junior TKM time qualifying Group 2, and at the moment, Harvey Cole, provisionally speaking, is still on course to take pole in this group. So overall, in terms of the qualification standings, but Oliver Stewart, he's just done a 16.89. He needs to go at least, as I said, 3/100ths of a second quicker than Louis Harvey, and that could make all the difference and put the Scot into the top 5 after qualifying. Ben Cox sets a personal best as the checkered flag waves. That is it. That concludes the session. Now, did Oliver Stewart cross the line beforehand? Because if he has, that's an absolute genius stroke. But will he have the opportunity? He must have crossed that line beforehand, because the checkered flag hasn't shown up against his number on the timing. Spencer Lane at the moment is provisional as on pole, but is Oliver Stewart going through another flying lap? That is my big question here, because everyone else has been shown as having gone across the finish line. So Stewart might have got there with probably a couple of seconds, if that, to spare, because there's only 2 more karts and Stewart is one of them at the moment, I believe. The yellow flags have been shown post, and that is it. Oliver Stewart has not done enough. So Spencer Lane takes pole position. Takes pole in time qualifying Group 2 for Junior TKM, but does not do enough to take Harvey Cole's top spot at the end of qualifying. So Harvey Cole takes it in the group stages in time qualifying in this session. Spencer Lane, Will Howells, Oliver Stewart, Lewis Mackey, Dominic Roberts, Ben Cox, James Barty, Harry Yardley-Rose, Harry Wainwright, Oliver Richardson round out the top 10. They were all separated by just under 0.7 of a second on that particular qualifying session. Morgan Kidd was 11th ahead of Dominic Kilminster, Mr. Matt Marsh, Finlay Saunders, Ben Higgins, and Daniel Gazal rounds out the 16 strong. But in some respects, it's going to be very interesting, because Will Howells takes 4th position, provisionally speaking, in the overall qualifying classification. So Harvey Cole takes the group qualifying stages, provisionally speaking, pending any post-session scrutineering and sporting checks that need to be adhered to. Spencer Lane takes 2nd. Zach Taylor is 3rd. Will Howells will be 4th ahead of Louis Harvey. Oliver Stewart goes ahead of Zach Oates in the overall qualifying stages side of things in 6th, with Oates in 7th. And then we had Davis, Mackey and Roberts. That is the top 10 in the overall qualification classification stage here for Junior TKM. So 4 sessions down, 3 more to go. And it's the last of our groups that will have 2 groups of qualifiers. TKM Extreme is up next. And coming into this round, Lee Whittingham is now the points leader by just 2 ahead of Carl Sproat from Lichfield Motorsport. Ryan Cole from Flex Motorsport rounds out the top 3, all separated by just 6 points. Adam Sparrow, who had some really good running both at Fulbeck and at Shenington, is 4th ahead of James Pashley. Chris Whitten, I remember when I left Rissington that Chris Whitten was the series leader. I had a quick chat with Chris earlier on this morning. He just said basically there was an issue with the brakes and a pin had come out, and it put his weekend at a bit of a downer, unfortunately, for the privateer on the number 2. He's currently 6th in the standings, ahead of Matthew Allnut. Sam Fowler, Harry Moore and James Ogden round out the top 10 in TKM Extreme. And they're all separated by 60 points. There are still 6 more rounds to go in this championship. 2 of here this weekend. So it's rounds 7 and 8. We now find out who will be in this qualifying session. So James Pashley is in there. Tony Cazagal from France, Joseph Reeves-Smith from Litchfield Motorsport. The points leader, Lee Whittingham, is in this qualifying group. Lewis Wadley, who did the double at Rissington, and I have to say I was very, very impressed by his performance. He's currently 19th in the standings on 253 points, but there is still plenty of twists in the tail for the TKM Extreme title fight later on this season. So the first set of banker laps will be coming in very, very shortly as the field weaves its way through Cafe Corner into Pitts Bend onto the Stratford Straight. Harry Moore's gone quicker than anybody in the first sector, a 16.78 for the Litchfield Motorsport driver, but that's been bettered by Max Goldschmidt from Jade Racing in the 66, just on a 16.68. Matthew Allnutt's just gone quickest in sector 2. That's been bettered by Joseph Reeves-Smith with an 18.39. And Matthew Allnutt sets the initial benchmark on a 52.05, but that gets quickly deposed by multiple drivers, including the likes of Harry Moore, as Max Goldsmith hits the top of the timesheets, a 51.71 from the number 66 from Jade Racing. Best sector of anybody in sector 1, a 16.68 and a 51.71. Then it's 0.21 of a second back to Harry Moore from Litchfield Motorsport. And at the moment, Lee Whittingham's got a lot of work to do in this session. 52.44 for the number 9. He's currently down in 12th ahead of Maria Bright in the 72. Lewis Wadley in 15th. Top 15 separated by 1.08 of a second, so just under 1.1 seconds so far. As they come through Park Bend into Cafe Corner. And into my line of sight came the number 36 of Matthew Allnutt as Max Goldsmith retakes the top spot, 51.51. Goes faster than anybody in sector number 1, but then is quickly... I have to say, James Pashley is on the move too. The number 52 did a 51.56. Then it's a further 10th back to Ryan Cole from Flex Motorsport. Michael Cornell, Joseph Reeves-Smith, Matthew Allnutt, Archie Strong, Matthew Taylor, Harry Moore and Zach Bowen round out the top 10. They're all separated by just under 4.5 tenths of a second. Lee Whittingham still down in 12th position at the moment, but he is getting quicker. He's just done a PB in sector number 1, a 16.95. Pashley, in the meantime, has just done an absolute flyer in sector number 2, an 18.26 from the number 52. And now Pashley takes the top spot, 51.33. That's a good job there. He set a best sector in sector number 1 and then went purple in sector 2. It was building to be a really, really good lap there from Pashley, based in Over Norton. Max Goldsmith, Ryan Cole, Michael Cornell, Archie Strong still completes the top 5. With Joseph Reeves-Smith having set exactly the same lap time as Archie Strong, but Strong set it first, thereby gets the place at the moment, currently 5th. Lee Whittingham still in 12th position. So the points leader is really going to have to be on the back foot. Remember what happened with Chris Whitten back at Rissington. Qualified 34th, if memory serves me correctly, and came fighting back. Matthew Taylor and Matthew Allnutt both go up positions, 4th and 6th respectively. Tony Cazagal from France, the number 11, is now 11th. And as that has been... that's quite a surprise, because that's dropped Lee Whittingham out of the top 12, now into 13th. It's just on a 52.38 on that last tour. Matthew Warnock's just done a personal best in sector number 1, a 16.77. Doesn't better it in sector 2. Pashley again with another blinding sector number 2, 18.21. So is he gearing up for another conclusive, faster lap than the last time, well, than 2 laps ago? Let's find out very, very shortly. We're into the last 60 seconds. Pashley does go quicker, 51.30. Max Goldschmidt just waiting to see what he does. He did an 18.41. He's done a 51.55. He's 4/100ths off of the best time he's done in this qualifying session. Whittingham still struggling, still down in 13th position. The conditions have been quite challenging, to say the very, very least here. I've seen drivers go sideways through Cafe Corner. Some drivers end up going onto the grass at certain points, having to negotiate through Wilkins, and one driver was actually found to be pointing 180 degrees the wrong way. We're into the last 14 seconds. Now, could Matthew Warnock get across the start-finish line before the checkered flag is waved? We're seconds away from finding out. And that is the case. Now, who else has been able to break the timing bean before the timer ticked down to 0? Matthew Warnock is one of them. I think Harry Moore might have been another. Maybe even James Pashley. There are 4 still circulating by my reckoning. Well, you can make that there is more than 4 karts out on circuit, but the one that's leading them is Matthew Warnock from TWM in the 36. It's just done a 16.87, Sector 1. 18.3, Sector 2. Don't think it's going to be enough for Matthew Warnock to improve position, but he could prove me wrong very, very shortly when he goes through Wilkins, which I think he's just done now. That's it. Qualifying is over for TKM Extreme Group number 1. James Pashley takes the initial advantage in timed group qualifying. So his time of a 51.30 will be the time to beat for Group 2. Michael Cornell in second ahead of Matthew Taylor. Ryan Cole in fourth for Flex Motorsport. Max Goldsmith for Jade Racing Team rounds up the top 5. And what a close top 5 it was. Just over 0.2 of a second. And it was less than a tenth between Pashley and Cornell for what was pole in group. Joseph Reeve-Smith for Litchfield Motorsport in 6th ahead of Matthew Ornott. Archie Strong, Zach Bowen and Harry Moore rounding out the top 10, all separated by just over half a second. Then it was Francis Tony Kezegel from TWM in the number 11 in 11th ahead of Kai Springfield. Lee Whittingham down in 13th ahead of Lewis Wadley, who did the double at Rissington. Ross Steele from Clarkson Motorsport in 15th ahead of Maria Bright and James Buckingham. The top 16 separated by 0.9 of a second after that session, with all of them separated by just 1 1/4 seconds. So that's the halfway stage of the group qualifying for TKM Extreme completed. So that means we have this and the Seoul KZ2 qualifying session still to go here at Shenington in Oxfordshire, not too far from the home of Rocket Williams Racing, and of course 5-time drivers and constructors world champions Mercedes AMG Petronas Motorsport, who I understand probably might be qualifying at Hockenheim at the moment, but we have more pressing matters here to concentrate on. So next up, in about a minute's time, it is Group 2 for TKM Extreme. We'll find out whether James Pashley's time of 51.3 will be beaten. It's going to be asking a lot of those in this second group, one of which will be Chris Whitten. We also have the likes of Carl Sproat, Adam Sparrow, Ryan Cole, Ryan Cole, who was just in that session. So Cole is 4th. So it's going to be a case of seeing what Ryan Cole, Chris Whitten, Carl Sproat, and Adam Sparrow do in this session. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it pans out. So we are seconds away from getting our penultimate qualifying session of the weekend underway here at Shenington. Timer has now been reset to 6 minutes exactly. So there is still a bit of a breeze in the air. It is still very much a wet track here So, the second group for TKM Extreme qualifying here at Shenington are released and unleashed onto the 1,018-metre circuit here at Shenington Kart Racing Club. Let's see what can happen in the next 5 3/4 minutes. Will Witten, Sparrow, Sproat and all maybe have an answer for James Pashley? We're moments away from finding out who will be in pole position. So all results are provisional, pending any sporting and scrutineering checks post-session. So the field now starting to make their way towards Wilkins before they cross the start-finish line to get onto their first banker lap here. And leading the field is the number 75 of Dan McKeown, followed by Sam Fowler, both from Jade Racing. Just seen Carl Sproat go past. And then Isaac Marsh from TWM just going through Cafe Corner. There's Chris Witten going through towards the Stratford Straight. As Carl Sproat puts it purple into sector number 1 there, 16.72. Dan McKeown's gone purple in sector number 2, 18.39 from the 75. And that has been equalled by Kyle Sproat at the moment. So we'll get our first proper banker laps in very, very shortly to find out who will be leading. Dan McKeown takes the initial advantage on a 51.54, quickly followed by Kyle Sproat on a 51.55. Jack Godden, one of the privateers in the 22, goes third quickest ahead of Spencer Stevenson. Adam Sparrow now drops down to 6th as Chris Witten goes 5th. We'll make that 7th for the number 3. So at the moment with their times, they're about 3.5 tenths or thereabouts towards getting into the top 10. But the only two that have made it thus far are Dan McKeown and Kyle Sproat. Sproat's been on a flyer as well. He's done a 16.67 in sector number 1. Sam Fowler does the best sector of anybody in sector number 2 and goes third quickest on a 51.73. Dan McKeown's done the best lap of anybody, 51.45. Theo Hesketh up into 5th behind James Ogden. As Chris Witten jumps up into 4th place, he's just done a 51.74. He's literally 1/100th outside of the top 10 in terms of the qualifying side of things here. So at the moment, it's still very much all to play for. Got 2 minutes and 47 seconds left on the clock remaining here in the qualifying session. Sam Fowler, in the meantime, has done a blistering 18.1 in the second sector. The Jade Racing team driver really has come good in this particular one, but then does a personal best. Had a bit of a bad sector number 1 anyhow, a 17.52 from the number 6. So he puts in a 52.1. Theo Hesketh from TWM, in the meantime, is also on the move and has gone into 8th on aggregate on the overall qualification standings. Oh, bit of a sideways tank slapper there for Alexander Lehman in the 91 coming out of Cafe Corner. That could have gone very, very gnarly, very, very quickly, but managed to catch it, put a bit of opposite lock and control it through the modulation of the throttle. These are very, very tricky conditions indeed here at Shenington. So Dan McKeown continues to lead this group, and this performance that he's showing at the moment is putting him 4th on aggregate. No, make that second. He's gone to within 3/100ths off of James Pashley. Pashley's pole position for the group qualifying stages could be under threat as McKeown puts in a personal best. He didn't have a purple sector in any of the sectors there, but put such a great lap together. It was more than enough to get him closer. 16.72 for Dan McKeown. Carl Sproat did a 16.76 on his last one. He's just had a really bad one there. 17.86. That's well off. That's the second off Dan McKeown there in that first sector. 18.42. That's not a bad That's not bad going there, but he's going to have to do a little bit more. He's going to have to really, really pull out at least another 2/10 as Dan McKeown through the final sector. We're coming down to the last 60 seconds of this penultimate qualifying session of the weekend here at Shenington. A 51.64 there. So McKeown's really got to hook it up now. I'm wondering, is he going to have enough time for this and another flying lap? That's the key point. As just seen, Chris Whitten all the way down. Well, Whitten's made it up into third. That's a great lap from Chris Whitten. 51.55. That's put him 8th on the aggregate qualifying standings post this session, pending any scrutineering or sporting checks. So Chris Whitten really coming alive here in the wets in Shenington. 16.73 for Dan McKeown in Sector 1. 18.26. Oh, that's going to be very, very close. He's got to be quicker than a 16.2, I reckon, for sector number 3. Is he going to do it in time? Oh, 16. He was literally... That was close. That was very close indeed, but the checkered flag's out. I think he got there. He's got another flying lap. He is going absolutely full throttle, heading towards Stratford hairpin. Carl Sproat won't get another attempt. He's second in this qualifying session. Chris Whitten improves his time, but fractionally... But Dan McKeown, did he manage to get across the start-finish line beforehand? That's the key point, because he's done a 16.69. If he's hooked this up right now, this is the perfect opportunity. 18.2. He's got to do probably, a 16.35, I think, maybe, by my reckoning. Could he steal it at the dying moments off of James Pashley in group qualifying for TKM Extreme? No, it's not enough. Not enough at all, but he still takes the pole position in timed qualifying Group 2 for TKM Extreme. That was very close indeed. So James Pashley, provisionally speaking, post any scrutineering and sporting checks, obviously after this particular session, takes pole in the overall qualification standings, ahead of Dan McKeown, who takes pole in this session. Carl Sproat takes second. And it was 0.16 between McKeown and Sproat at the end of this. Chris Whitten recovered greatly. He was running at the 52s, came back with a 51.51 to take third, and that puts him 8th overall. Sam Fowler 4th. That puts him 9th, with Theo Hesketh rounding out the top 10, but 5th in this session. Alexander Page, Megan Lawson, James Ogden, and Jack Gooden and Aaron Lask from... Precision Racing rounded out the top 10, all separated by 7/10. Adam Sparrow in 11th. He's got a lot of work to do in the heats and also the finals tomorrow. Christian Brearley from Clarkson Motorsport is 12th, ahead of Ethan Newsham. Leanna Page in 14th. Spencer Stevenson, Alexander Lehman and Isaac Marsh round out the 17 strong. But James Pashley, provisionally speaking, takes pole in the group qualifying standings on aggregate post both qualifying sessions here at Shenington. Now, for those that are here at the circuit and those that are probably in the vicinity of my microphone if you're listening to Downforce Radio, you can hear the revs, the consistent blips of the throttle on the KZ2 category. This is their penultimate race weekend of the season, and it's Adam Glear that leads the standings by 10 points, ahead of Andy Fairless Racing's Dan Kelly, who's the number 1 seed. Shane Daly, James Glenister, Ryan Cannon round out the top 5, all separated by 25 points. Scott Allen wants to come back from what travesty happened in terms of mechanical failure for the 25 from Jade Racing at Fullbeck a few weeks ago. He's 6th in the standings on 218 points. Hannah Lang, who I spoke to earlier on today, and she said, I want it to be dry. Well, hopefully, Hannah, we might have dry weather tomorrow, but I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. Tom Longfield on the podium back at Rissington at the first round of their season. He's got a little bit of work to do. Didn't have the best run of luck in Final 2 at Fullbeck, but don't count him out. Lee Ward, Adam Rustling round out the top 10, and the top 10 is separated by 47 points coming into this round. So all the competitors from KZ2 will be in the same melting pot, the same qualifying session. 6 minutes on the clock have been set And this is where we will see incredible high speeds heading up to Stratford Corner. 1,211 metres because they are gearbox-derived karts. And for those at home, you might be watching Max Verstappen if he's qualifying at Hockenheim, but he is a KZ world champion, so he knows what these drivers have to do on a weekend's basis. It's never easy. Yes, he was a world champion at 15, but it just goes to show that when you've had the likes of also Charles Leclerc, who was one of his chief rivals when they were both in the CIK FIA championships, they were rivals, and they are still rivals. Remember Red Bull Ring is all I'm going to say about that one. But here, we need to find out who is going to be our pole setter for KZ2. So the time has started ticking away. 5 minutes 19 to go on the clock here at Shenington for our final qualifying session of the weekend before the heats get underway here locally at 15:45. So Scott Allen puts in the fastest first sector of anybody, a 15.16, whereas most other drivers, well, including Lee Ward, are about half a tenth of a second adrift. Some are running in the high 15.3s. Ryan Dones at the moment running in the 16.1s at the minute. Dan Kelly, the number one from Andy Fairless Racing, 15.62. Scott Allen's put in a 23.38, which has instantly been bettered by Tom Longfield, one of the privateers. Tom's just on a 23.22 as Scott Allen puts in the first banker lap. That is a 53.07. As Longfield goes to within 4.5 tenths at the minute on the 17. He's just put in a 53.51. And these are quite physical karts. And even in the wet, it's still very, very tricky indeed. So Scott Allen, again, goes sub 15 seconds in the first sector, puts in a 23.09 in sector number 2. Tom Longfield's done a 15.2 in sector number 2 there. Shane Daly third, Adam Glear, Lee Hasler, Miles Murphy, Dan Kelly, Anderson Chilcott, Dan Arlott and Craig Mooney rounding out the top 10, all separated by about 2.2 seconds. Scott Allen is the first one to go sub 53 seconds, a 52.54. Adam Glear's not that far behind in terms of pure lap pace, but is about 6 tenths or a second off that at the moment. Tom Longfield, Shane Daly and Miles Murphy now round out the top 5. Lee Ward has moved up into 6th position. Oliver Gemmell up into 14th as Nicholas Jenkins goes up into 12th. Matt Sherwin 14th. Daniel Gould in 17th. Hannah Lang has got a bit of work to do. She's down in, she was down in 19th. She's down now up into 14th, having done a 54.75. But Scott Allen's time is the one to beat at the minute. So the 25 has put in a 22.93 on sector number 2. He is absolutely flying. He was only 2/100ths off his best first sector lap time. He's gone even quicker, 52.4 from the number 25. I don't think anyone's going to get even close to that, but Shane Daly's getting a bit of a move on here. Up into 3rd place, 53.49. Lee Hasler up into 6th. Lee Ward, Anderson Chilcott and Dan Arlott round out the top 10 as Adam Rusling and Craig Mooney respectively go up into 11th and 12th place. Top 12 separated by 1.8 seconds. Oliver Gemmell up into 15th now as Matt Sherwin now takes that position away from the MK Racing driver in the number 43. But Scott Allen really has put in the lap times very, very early indeed. And I think has caught everyone a bit by surprise here. He's done a 15.07 in Sector 1, 22.95. He's about to complete another lap and does a 14.45 in Sector number 3. And he was only 7/100ths off of his best lap time in qualifying thus far. As we go into the last 90 seconds of this final qualifying session of the weekend here at Shenington. More changes happening. Miles Murphy 5th, Lee Ward 7th, Dan Kelly 9th, Craig Mooney up into 13th, and that's the number 83 from Rush Performance. sets the same time as Adam Rustling from Moore Racing. Oliver Gemmell gets back up into the top 15, only 15th position for the MK Racing driver. So we're going to find out very shortly what Scott Allen is up to at the moment. He's just done a 23.11, whereas James Glenister, in the meantime, has gone into third place on a 53.44, having set personal bests in all three sectors and has done exactly the same in sector number 1. Lee Hasler, in the meantime, has gone up into 7th position, whereas Miles Murphy from Moore Racing up into 7th place on a 53.31. Again, 2 laps where he's improved times and then has improved positions. Craig Mooney up into 12th. Greg Dickens up into 16th position. Glenister is also on is improving on both first and second sectors. A 15.45, and he's gone up into third past Miles Murphy with around about 8 seconds on the clock remaining. It's going to come down to it, but I think Scott Allen has done more than enough very early on in this session. Checkered flag has waved. That concludes the session. So just waiting to see if anyone improves. Shane Daly, 5th provisionally at the moment. Lee Hasler, 7th. Tom Longfield splits the pair in 6th position. Miles Murphy, 4th. But Scott Allen, he's on another flyer. He's actually done the best. He's gone 1/100th of a second quicker in sector number 1, so he must have broken the timing beam literally before they brought out the checkered flag. So there we go. Thank you very much, Graham, for pointing that out to me. As he's just flying all his way down the hanger straight at the moment. It's 23.27. Not going to be enough to better his time of a 52.4 earlier on in this session, but very shortly he'll come round to come to the finish line, which he does now. That's it. Qualifying's over. Scott Allen from Jade Racing Team takes pole position for the heat stages in KZ2 by a whopping 0.78 of a second ahead of Adam Glear in the number 2. James Glenister rounds out the top 3, 1/100th behind the number 2 of Glear. Miles Murphy in 4th ahead of Shane Daly, who rounds out the top 5, all separated by 1.1 seconds. Then it's very close between Tom Longfield and Adam Rustling. Well, Longfield got the position first because he sat that lap time ahead of Rustling. Lee Hasler, Ashley Lewis, Lee Ward, Oliver Gemmell, they round out the top 11, all separated by just over 1.5 seconds. Dan Kelly in 12th, Matt Sherwin in 13th, Addison Chilcott in 14th, ahead of Craig Mooney, Dan Arlott, Craig Dickens, Hannah Lang, Daniel Gould, Nicholas Jenkins, and Ryan Dones rounding out the 21 strong, all separated by 2.65 seconds. So that concludes the live coverage on Downforce Radio and also here at the circuit for rounds 7 and 8 of TKM and Honda, rounds 5 and 6 of KZ2 for the 2019 Motorsport UK British Kart Championships. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, this weekend's commentator. I will be back on the air for the Honda Cadet repechage at 12:35 tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon. Thank you.